What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'll be bringing you a new Nascar reaction video. In my last Nascar reaction video I told you guys I would do 8 things you probably don't know about NASCAR, and we're bringing it today. It's quite a long one, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time in this intro. I don't know much about NASCAR, as you guys know. You've informed me a lot in the comments, which I really appreciate. I read every single one. I try to reply to every single one as well. I'm sorry if one slips through, but 99% of the time your comments getting read and replied to. And you guys have been so informative in the comments. It's been amazing. I suppose it's a bit harder to picture it when it's on text, like some of the things you mean. So this might help picture it with a bit of visualization as well. So without further ado, let's get into the reaction. If you're new around here, subscribe. Let's try and hit 20 to 30 likes in this video, guys, and I hope you enjoy.
Over time, I've noticed that a good chunk of my subscribers have either never watched a NASCAR race or have just started getting into the sport. And with the quarantine finally being partially lifted this week, and NASCAR being the first American sport to resume competition.
I mean, I know he's talking about the first sport to resume competition, but look at that. Look how many fans are there now. Oh, is that 4 tiers? That's potentially 4 tiers packed out with fans. I know obviously that won't be the same 2020. But going forward, I hope we get back to that. And wow, that must be a fantastic atmosphere, and I've got to go to that one day.
There's going to be an influx of new viewers checking into NASCAR for the first time. So I thought it might be a good idea to explain what exactly the hell is going on here for newcomers. NASCAR is actually a lot like baseball or golf. The more you know about it, the more interesting it becomes. But the less you...
All I'm saying is for people who don't watch much golf or are not into it all because they don't know the rules, that's so true. I used to not be into it, but now I'll happily sit down and watch the Masters and stuff like that. A great sport once you know what's going on.
You know about
and
it,
I imagine this is going to be the same.
So with information at a premium, here are 8 things that you probably didn't know about NASCAR.
I definitely won't know about.
First off, NASCAR was started by state and federal criminals. Although NASCAR's founder Bill France was never a rum runner himself, NASCAR's early rosters from the late 40s and early 50s were filled with convicts and guys who just never got caught. Before and after Prohibition, intoxicating spirits were banned outright in several states in the Southeast. So enterprising young men throughout the South souped up their hot rods so they could outrun the cops when they were on one of their nightly runs. Eventually, local legends grew, and people wanted to know which of their local bootleggers was the best driver.
Wow, I imagine we're going to learn a bit more about the history in a second, but I love how it's not just a simple, a few guys got together, built some cars and raced and thought, yeah, let's make this a thing. I love how it's actually, there's a bit of a background. I know obviously it's not the best with criminals and stuff like that, but it kind of suits the sport as well. It's quite rough, a lot of bumping and stuff like that from what I've seen. So yeah, it suits the sport, but it has got its background and I love it.
And so tracks and competitions were organized, and at some point somebody had the bright idea to start selling tickets to these get-togethers. And stock car racing was born. Bill France, a Daytona Beach resident, businessman, as well as a former race car driver himself, saw the growing interest and established the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing.
So that's what it stands for, I assume. I imagine it hasn't changed. Let me know in the comments, guys, but I imagine it still stands for that, which is awesome. You got to keep your traditions alive at the end of the day, and that's a great story of how it started. NASCAR, I really enjoy that.
And the rest was history. While many NASCAR stars had their fair share of run-ins with the law, there was none more famous than the last American hero himself, Junior Johnson. A 50-time winner in NASCAR's top series, Junior Johnson was arrested by federal revenuers in 1956 when he went to fire up his father's still one night. He spent...
Father's still? Burn his house down? There might be a bit of a language barrier there. I'm an absolute idiot. That's a common phrase. I don't know what it means. I'm going to go with burn his father's house down. Let me know what it actually is in the comments, guys.
Spent 1 year in federal prison and was eventually pardoned by President Ronald Reagan many years later, although he had begun the appeal process under the Carter administration. But in true bootlegger fashion, if you ever brought this up to Junior while he was still alive, he'd be quick to remind you that he never got caught behind the wheel while he was making one of his runs.
Oh, I love that. The true racer in him. No matter what's happened in his life, if you're talking to him or bring something up like that, it always reminds you, yeah, but I never got caught. I was a proper racer, never got caught. Was the best
Junior
of the best.
Gained a reputation on the track for being a tough-as-nails driver and an innovative mechanic.
So
innovative, in fact, that he is widely regarded as one of the most cheatingest figures in all of NASCAR. And that gets me to number 2 on this list. Cheating is not only tolerated by NASCAR fans, but is actually celebrated. I know this comes as a shock.
Strange one. I imagine he's going to explain it in a second, but I want to try and not predict, but try and give my insight of what I think in some of these scenarios, and then I can learn as well, just so that you guys know my knowledge of it, I guess. I'm guessing it's similar to F1, where they put different parts in and try and bend the rules a little bit, potentially get around the rules I'm guessing that's what they mean by tolerating, because they're not exactly doing too much wrong with it, so fans potentially could allow it. I don't know.
Shocker, and is at odds with every other sport in existence, but hear me out. Although the sanctioning body of NASCAR is very stringent with its rules, NASCAR fans have always turned a blind eye to cheaters in the sport and actually sing their praises amongst themselves. Teams are allowed to either build their own cars or purchase them from other teams. And even though NASCAR has strict specifications that those cars have to adhere to, there's always a little wiggle room left to exploit. There's an old saying in NASCAR, if you ain't cheating, then you ain't winning. Everybody does it, although they're usually...
If everyone does it, you've got to do it, because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, you're going to be last, aren't you? So I suppose if everyone's doing it, it's kind of accepted by fans. You're going to have to try and gain advantage. If everyone else is getting an advantage, you're just going to be left behind.
Usually bending the rules or just breaking a rule before it's on the books. Junior Johnson was so prolific in the art of rule dodging that he actually had one of his creations put into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the Yellow Banana. A 66 Ford Galaxy that was one of the most disgustingly illegal cars in the history of the sport, and got its name due to its shape and its yellow paint job. But if there was ever a mechanic who...
Let me know what was illegal about that car, guys. I mean, very controversial shape and colour. I mean, I rated it. Fair play to him for going out in that. But let me know actually what is illegal. Unless he brings it up here, let me know, guys.
The best Junior Johnson in the dark arts of stock car cheating, it was Smokey Yunick. With a silly name but a penchant for disregarding the rules at every turn, NASCAR fans became enamored with
cheating.
Smokey's
It really is. I don't know why.
He did anything to get a leg up over the competition, making his engines too big, mounting the bodies too far forward on the frame, increasing the size of the fuel tank, and when officials became wary of that, they mandated the size of the fuel tank to 20 gallons. But Smokey then just made the fuel line wrap around the car, which squeezed an extra gallon or two out of the limit set in place. And in one famous example, Smokey...
He's revolutionising the sport, yeah? Not cheating, revolutionising the sport.
He had his fuel tank seized by NASCAR tech inspectors, saying that it was too large and he had a total of 10 infractions that needed to be changed. They had pulled the fuel tank out of the car as extra punishment, thinking that Smokey would have to push the car back to the garage. But instead, Smokey just jumped in the car, cranked it up, still with no fuel tank in it, and drove it back to his crew while shouting at the officials, "Make that 11 things."
Mate, what a badass. He didn't care one bit, did he? Fair play to him.
And even to this day, this proud tradition of rule bending is still alive in NASCAR. As recently as 2018, during the Flexgate scandal, Stewart-Haas racing cars have manipulated the bracing on the rear window to give way at high speeds to direct more airflow towards the spoiler.
You gotta admit, you think it's cheating, so that's impressive engineering. And it is very impressive that they've done that. I know obviously it's cheating, got to frown upon it a little bit, but it's very impressive for engineering.
Exploit famously found out by NASCAR Reddit.
Shout out Reddit. You may see my videos sometimes posted there. If you guys hate me posting the videos there, I'm sorry, let me know. I'll stop posting them there, or just ignore them, because I imagine a few people potentially came from them links. And I'm not there to spam it. I just put it out there. If anyone wants to see it, they'll click on it. If they don't, at the end of the day, they won't. Not a big deal, but if you guys do want me to stop, let me know. If not, just enjoy the video, I guess.
Being as there was no rule in place to break at the time, NASCAR let the wins by Stewart-Haas stand, but said that anything of the like found going forward would be dealt with harshly, as teams found out the hard way later.
I'm assuming more people did it than if they found out the hard way. And again, I suppose if you're the innovator of it, if there's no rule about it, then can't really punish you if there's no rule about doing it.
Stewart-Haas team of cars beat the law at the time, but that actually leads to the question, wait, there are teams in NASCAR? Well, yeah, number 3.
I know about that because of you guys.
One team owner might expand his stable from 1 car to include 2, 3, or even 4 cars, the maximum allowable as of right now. Piloted by different drivers with different crew chiefs who prepare the cars, these teams share information and discoveries, but still prepare their cars independently according to the preferences of the drivers. Sometimes this leads to friendly and not so friendly competition in-house, which may or may not have beneficial effects on the teams. It's all dependent on the chemistry of the people involved.
So, let me know, guys. I don't know if it's the same as F1, because sometimes you get in a like a 1 and 2 situation. Let's just settle. They're miles away from everyone else. They settle for 1 and 2. The owner's like, alright, we don't want to race because if you race, you potentially crash and you're out. But obviously, from what I've seen of NASCAR so far, it's literally all out, mega finishes, people crashing on the line. People are guaranteed first and second, coming last because they've gone all out to get first. Is that a thing in NASCAR? If it's first and second of the same team and they're definitely going to get it, do they just settle, or do they race it so they potentially crash out and then the owner gets no wins? Let me know, guys, because I imagine if you're an owner, you're going to be absolutely fuming if they're bumping each other going into that last corner. But let me know in the comments, guys.
So the owner of the entire operation has to manage his personnel accordingly. Just as important as the team of mechanics are the pit crew members, who service the car during the actual race. These fearless men, plucked from the rosters of professional and collegiate athletic programs, brave the chaos of pit road and change tires and put new fuel in the car, all
Firstly, I want to say pit team, they're as good as a driver at the end of the day. If you've got a bad pit team, you can never win a race. So it's a whole team effort. But I heard put fuel in. So obviously, again, I don't want to compare it too much to Formula 1, but that's the only motor racing I've ever seen. So I kind of have to compare it a little bit. I know they stop the races with a tank full of fuel, which will last them the entire race. So in this, I imagine, is that not going to slow the pit stop down a lot if you're having to fill it with fuel? Let me know how that works. Is it like a super pump or something like that and it gets it in quick?
All while making adjustments and repairs, as dozens of other cars and teams are all doing the same thing on pit lane. Under ideal conditions, a NASCAR pit crew can change 4 tires, top off fuel, and make adjustments to the car in less than 14 seconds.
Wow, that's mental.
And yes, sometimes accidents do occur and they get hurt. But thanks to safety regulations and the skill of other drivers out there on pit lane.
Don't worry, folks, it's fine. The sole of his shoe saves his foot from being crushed. Very lucky indeed.
Those incidents are few and far between.
That's incredible.
The pit crew members are the athletes that make the team the best they can be on race day. But what about the guys behind the wheel piloting the race car itself? That gets us to number 4. Yes, the drivers are athletes. It takes a special type of crazy to hop into a metal coffin wearing a fireproof suit and sling a car around at 200 miles an hour. But it also takes an insane amount of physical fitness as well. Temperatures inside the car can reach as high as 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And in this oven, you have...
That's incredibly hot. Nah, screw that. I won't want to be driving anyway because of a bump and stuff like that. That's incredibly hot.
Think critically about your next move and have cat-like reflexes.
Must be so mentally
all
draining.
While communicating to your crew about how your car is holding up via radio. NASCAR legend Bobby Allison used to prepare for these insane conditions by driving around his home in Hueytown, Alabama in his personal car in the middle of the summer with the windows rolled up, with the heat blasting, and while wearing several jackets.
Imagine seeing someone in the middle of summer, 30 degrees outside, windows rolled up, jumpers on, and you can smell the heat coming from his heater. That's mental. That is honestly mental, and fair play to him. That just shows the level of commitment, and I imagine it's going to say nowadays, I can't see him doing that nowadays. You've got gyms, you've got more people revolutionise the sport at the end of the day, don't they? So this guy, imagine at the time when this guy did this stuff, everyone were following him, because I imagine it helped him out get into the zone of when you're driving, high temperatures, and you just get used to it. Nowadays, I imagine there's some technology they use to do it, and everyone follows that as well. It's always someone sets a precedent and then everyone follows it.
Drivers nowadays take trips to the sauna, have a strict fitness regimen, and diet.
Yeah, you got the gym equipment and stuff like that. One person goes to the sauna, it helps them out.
Mark.
And then other
a man
people
often derided as undersized during his early career, the 5'6" Arkansas native took up weightlifting and high-level fitness programs to make up for it, and found out that the workouts actually made him better equipped to handle the demands of NASCAR racing. And soon after that, nearly everyone followed suit. Even in his 50s and still winning races, Mark was still rocking.
In his 50s and still winning
an 8-pack.
An 8-pack. So he's in his 50s, he's winning races, and he's got an 8-pack. I'm in my 20s. I'd shit myself to get in one of them cars, and I ain't even got a 2-pack. He's an absolute beast.
Wait, Mark Martin was still winning races in his
Fair
50s?
Play to him.
Yep, that gets us to number 5 on the list. NASCAR drivers can have incredibly long careers.
That's incredible.
The average successful NASCAR driver will make his first starts in his early 20s and will retire in his mid to late 40s.
Oh,
Some drivers even go beyond this.
Career.
In 1992, Harry Gant set the record that still stands today as the oldest driver to ever win a NASCAR race at 52 years old.
That's mental. Imagine getting in the car, 19 years old, racing. You probably want to be out there in 5 years, making money, get out there. Like, it's such a high tense environment, I imagine, obviously 140 degrees as well, mental. It's ridiculous that these people go on for so long, and it makes sense because obviously they love the sport, I guess. I imagine they've made their money a long time ago, but their love for and passion for the sport has kept them going, which I absolutely rate, and fair play to them.
Mark Martin got close in 2009 at age 50, but no driver has challenged the throne since. And to give you some perspective, if the youngest driver to ever win a race, Joey Logano, who got his first win at the age of 19 in 2009,
there we go, 19.
beat Harry Gant's record,
fair play to him.
He would have to wait
That's
until
a young
2043.
age to be in them cars.
Current drivers span all age groups.
That's brutal, man. Long time to go, but again, if you've got the passion, then why not? Very dangerous, very scary, but if you've got the passion for it and you love the thrill of the ride, then go as long as you can. Absolutely rate it.
Joey Logano from Connecticut will turn 30 this year. His teammate Ryan Blaney is 26 and hails from Ohio. And one of the best in the business right now, Kevin Harvick from Bakersfield, California, is 44 and has just signed a multi-year contract.
Look how tight it looks in there as well.
Hey, maybe he'll be the one to take handsome Harry Gant's crown. Okay, so we've covered the who, the what, and the why of NASCAR. But as you sit down to watch the race, what should you be keeping your eye on? Yes, there's daring, death-defying moves and beating and banging action happening every so often, but what keeps NASCAR crazy such as myself glued to the TV for the entire duration of the race? Number 6, it's all about strategy. Most NASCAR races are between 400 and 500 miles long. And as you probably guessed, you have to stop for tires and fuel along the way. But when do you do it? Your tires will wear out faster the harder you push them. So do you just take it easy and make up time?
I imagine all this is quite self-explanatory, same as Formula 1 really. Your tyres run out, you need to strategically plan your pit stops so at the end of the race
you're at the front. That's what I'm assuming. You push it now and end up losing time as the race goes on. You need to make it to the front in order to win, but when and how you do this matters in the grand scheme of things. Helping the driver and the crew work this out and masterminding the whole plan is the crew chief. He oversees the whole operation and decides what adjustments to make to the car according to the driver's inputs over the radio. He also makes suggestions to the driver on how hard to push the envelope. Some drivers like their crew chief to handle the mental heavy lifting. Others prefer to run at their own pace and just let the crew chief worry about adjustments. Either way, pairing the right drivers with the right crew chief is crucial to ending up in victory lane at the end of the day.
Oh, that 100% will make a difference with a crew chief. Let me know in the comments, guys. This is just something going on in my head as as I'm listening to this. So what I'm going to assume, let me know if I'm completely wrong. I may be absolutely waffling, and I apologise, guys. But I'm going to assume that the younger, more inexperienced guys use a crew chief a lot more because he's got the experience at the end of the day. He knows a lot more about the car and can definitely help you out. And who are you? If you're an inexperienced driver, who are you to say to him, you're wrong, I know best? Yeah, in some cases you will, but who are you to actually say that to a very experienced crew chief? So I imagine the crew chief is a lot more involved for younger drivers, and then as you get older, you get used to your car, you know what you're doing, it's routine, you've been doing it for 20 plus years. I imagine that's when your crew chief just pops in every so often to let you know about your car, when something new happens, or your tyres are wearing out and you can't feel it properly, and stuff like that. Let me know in the comments if I completely waffled, but that'd be my take on it.
But there's one other guy in this conversation that we haven't talked about yet, the spotter. That gets us to number 7. Drivers can't actually see that much inside of their cars. Due to safety regulations, drivers are pretty much bolted into...
Just look how horrible that looks. Don't get me wrong, he's probably having the time of his life racing, but imagine being cramped in there, not much sunlight getting through, 140 degrees. Personally, not for me, but I'll absolutely love enjoying it, and you got to respect these guys putting their body through all this for the entertainment of you guys.
To their seats, and their head movement is very limited. So to help with this, drivers have spotters that communicate with them constantly, telling them where the other cars are out on the track, if there's a wreck up ahead, or what the leader is up to. These crew members, perched high atop the press box, are usually family members of the driver or former drivers themselves, who are handpicked based on their ability to communicate effectively with the driver. On those crazy double-file restarts, the information spotters provide is understandably extremely important. In the early days before radio communications were widely available, lots of fatalities and injuries.
That's why you need a spotter. If not, you're not going to know there's a crash there and you go straight into it. If you've got a spotter, just be a bit careful. If there's a crash coming after his corner, you avoid it. That makes sense.
Simply because drivers didn't know what was happening up ahead. And as you probably expected, anytime a car is on the track, it is required by rule that the driver has a spotter up on the spotter stand to give them an extra set of eyes in the sky. Veteran drivers usually only have essential communications with their spotter and crew chief, as they can almost read each other's minds. However, newer drivers typically have a lot more radio traffic, as the spotter kind of doubles as a cheerleader and guide. And
that's what I was saying about the crew chief there. Obviously, they were just saying the spotter, bit of a cheerleader, helping him through the race, giving him any advice they need. The younger, because at the end of the day, they're a lot less experienced, and if something potentially happens which they haven't seen before, which they won't have seen a lot of things before, the chief exec and the spotter's there to help them out, I guess.
Here's the coolest part about all this radio chatter. You can actually listen in. Using various apps on NASCAR.com or by renting a scanner at the track itself, you can pick a driver and listen in on all the back and forth action for yourself.
Oh, that's definitely
and yes, sometimes the teams listen in on each other to see what kind of strategies they're cooking up. So don't be surprised if they start talking in code.
It'd be a shame if I talked in code, but I can imagine if you're a fan of a certain driver, you're at the ground, you've got the mad atmosphere around you as well, to be able to listen to that one car, if you're supporting that one car, you want them to win, you want to watch them the entire time, to be able to listen to what they're saying, their feelings in the moment and stuff like that, hear their voice, that must be pretty cool and add to the sport and add to the intenseness, to be honest, and just there's not much separation between the driver and the fans then. I absolutely love that. That's a great idea.
But fair warning, these are grown men in a high-stress environment. Sometimes they say things that aren't exactly PG rated. So think
100%,
twice about having your kids join in.
Especially when the battle
Some tracks, though, are so massive that they require multiple spotters in different locations to help out the driver. And that gets us finally to number 8. NASCAR goes to a lot of very different racetracks, and yes, we even make a few right-hand turns. Every driver in the series has to have a mastery of different disciplines in racing. Whether we're talking about the 2-mile and up super speedways, the half-mile short tracks, or the twisting and turning road courses, by the end of the 36 race schedule, every driver will have been put through a gauntlet of demanding venues. Tracks come in all shapes and sizes, and some of the lower divisions, NASCAR's minor leagues, even race on dirt. These circuits dot the U.S. landscape from major markets like Atlanta and Las Vegas to small towns tucked away in the southeast like Bristol and Martinsville and everywhere in between. There are no away games, so to speak, in NASCAR, but with the vast majority of teams being located in North Carolina, having to pinball across the U.S. is a demanding effort in its own right, as hauler drivers will work around the clock driving a garage on wheels to and from each racetrack during the year.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. That's like Cars. Have you ever seen Cars, the kids film? It reminds me of that, to be honest with you. Yeah, fair play. I mean, I don't really know how I expected them to get the calls there. Makes sense, really, have a big truck and people
cruising drivers will fly out to the track a few days before the race and spend hours running practice laps until they're finally happy with the car and move on to qualifying time trials to set the field, where the fastest driver starts at the front, also known as the pole position. Well, that about wraps it all up. 8 things you might not have known about NASCAR. Hopefully this video has shed some light on this weird traditionally southern motorsport and given you a greater appreciation of these cars going around in differently shaped circles at unreasonably fast speeds. If you want to know more about the types of drivers that make NASCAR what it is, then you can check out my video on the 9 types of NASCAR.
It's just wrapping it up. You guys have suggested me more videos from this guy, which I will react to because that was very informative. And it definitely adds to what you guys have been saying in the comments as well. Because again, like I said at the start, when you see a comment, you read it. It's great. I absolutely appreciate it. So don't stop, guys. Keep throwing information at me. But it don't always fully process because again, you're just reading it on your phone. But when you get a bit of visuals, you've got that in the back of your head as well. It adds up 100%. That's a very great video. Learned loads from that. I really appreciate you guys suggesting that. So many of you did, and I see why. I'm going to react to more of this guy's stuff. Any other NASCAR stuff you want me to react to in the comments, let me know, guys. Hopefully you've answered my questions, because if not, I'll just ask them again because I won't know the answer. I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. If you had, hit 20 likes. Let's go for 20 likes in this video, guys, because it's quite a long one, so I can't imagine too many people are here right now. Have a great day. Peace.